Hello, friends, and thanks for joining us. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, guiding you through the trails of Glacier National Park. And you cannot get to some of these trails without first passing historic lodges. And in this case, we are coming in the west entrance. We're taking you through and right to Lake McDonald Lodge, the largest lake in the park. The lodge sits right on it. And as a reminder, Sarah and I met working at Lake McDonald Lodge years and years ago. And so it's a very special place for us. But we love the place, go there all the time throughout the year, visit it in all seasons, and it just has a special lore behind it. In this episode, we are going to be talking about the history of the lodge, some dates, special dates, construction of it, key players, origin, naming, significance, points of interest, and my lovely wife, Sarah, knows just about everything about this place. So, Sarah, what do you know? Where do we start?
No pressure there. Well, as you said, like this whole complex area, the Lake McDonald complex holds a really special place in my heart because I spent 2 summers there. I met my husband, and there's just so much rich history here. And so I want to start by touching on just a little bit on how the park got established and when that was. So the Great Northern Railroad, it played a huge role, basically, just advertising back east. The train itself is still called the Empire Builder because that's, in fact, what James J. Hill did. The railroad was in the business of selling experiences, obviously transportation, but at some point they were bringing people here to sell an experience of Glacier National Park. Yeah, so the Great Northern Railroad helped promote proper legislation that established the park in 1910, and James J. Hill, he was the president. Him and his son were involved in this, but he created an empire of towns from St. Paul, Minnesota, all the way to Seattle, and that's still called the Empire Builder today, like I said. So he built an empire, and his son, Lewis Hill, helped establish the park, and they coined it the Playground of the Northwest. So they invested a lot of their own money in developing the park, the roads, the boats, the hotels, the chalets, the trails even.
Thanks to them, I'm thankful.
Yeah, I'm not one to be like, woohoo on development, but, we wouldn't probably have protected the park as quickly as we did if it wasn't for him and some other key partners like George Bird Grinnell and stuff.
But, for sure. And this was right around the time that the park was established as a national park, right?
Yeah, the railroad was front and center from 1910 to World War II. So it really did play a huge role. So I also want to jump into Lake McDonald. Like, where did that name come from? It's something that I actually didn't know. I had to look into a little bit, but it's believed to be named after Duncan McDonald. And he was around from 1849 to 1937, and he was a fur trader, and he was the son of a Hudson Bay Company factor. And he lived and worked in the Flathead Valley, and he visited what is now Glacier in 1878, and apparently he carved his name into a tree.
So why can I? Why can't I?
Sorry, too late. Too late.
All right.
His father was Scottish and his mom was Nez Perce on the Flathead Reservation. So, Kootenai people call this area the place where they dance or dancing waters. So, the Apgar area was pretty sacred, and they would have, powwows and stuff and sacred things here. So.
Oh yeah, and just up the road a little ways is Sacred Dancing Cascade.
Yeah, that's true. So the railroad not only brought people out here to visit this awesome place, but also homesteaders. So George Snyder played a really important key role in, where Lake McDonald Lodge is now. He was a pioneering homesteader. He built a hotel on Lake McDonald in 1895. And there wasn't really a hotel on the lake yet. So it was kind of developing around to Apgar a little bit, but there was nothing up on the eastern shore, like northeastern shore of the lake.
Snyder, that name sounds familiar. The Snyder Creek runs right through this complex. I remember sitting there on the bridge, just observing and taking it all in, and the sounds of a rushing river, super peaceful.
Yeah, well, and if you remember when we worked there, Snyder Creek kind of separated the boys' dorms and the girls' dorms.
Oh, we made the trip across. So.
They didn't want us crossing. And yeah. Anyways, you stayed in a dorm that was called Snyder, which is still there today. It's not the official lodge that he built, but it was a dormitory, and now it's a hostel for people to stay in. So
yeah, the property, that's a good point. The property has changed a little bit over the years.
Yeah.
The places that we stayed are now either guest rooms or not there, and more employee dorms have been built since then, which
really
are nice.
Ones.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Yep.
We didn't get to stay in the nice ones.
No, we didn't. This is way back when. But it's so cool. It's so cool. The people, walking around the complex, a lot of international workers and just people coming from all over and all ages too. I just loved the culture that came together at Lake McDonald.
I agree with you. Those are some of my fondest memories, spending my 2 summers around this area and just getting to know. We have so many friends that are from all over the world now, which is fabulous. And what an opportunity for them to be able to come to the U.S. and work in such an amazing place. So George Snyder, he built his Snyder Hotel that was 2 stories. It was a log hotel, and he sourced all the timber from the property here. And there was no road to get up to the lodge, so he had to use a steamboat. He actually bought a steamboat. It came off of Flathead Lake, and it was brought here by the train. And it was brought into Apgar there. It's a 40-foot steamboat that it was used to transport all these tourists from Apgar to he called it his Glacier house, and it was 10 miles up the lake. And it was moved by rail, like I said, from the Flathead Lake to the Belton or West Glacier there, and then brought back up. And that's how we brought people here. And there was also a stage, horse and buggy, a carriage that they used to transport people to in between Belton area to Apgar. You
used to tell me, and you're probably going to get there, but because of that reason, the front, facing side of the hotel and the rear side, and they've changed over the years because of how people arrive to it.
Yeah, and that was after Lake McDonald Lodge was built. So this is just Snyder, Snyder house. But yeah, that's the front, the lake-facing side of Lake McDonald Lodge is actually considered the front side because that's how people got there, and they arrived through a boat. So this first hotel, it had 6 to 8 rooms. It had a kitchen and a dining room. And George Snyder, he was a bit of an explorer himself, and he helped discover Sperry Glacier, and he was always eager to help his guests explore the glacier too. And they would come stay at his hotel, and he would kind of tell them how to get up there, which is, of course, up the Sperry Trail and past what is now Sperry Chalet, and up to the glacier. So he helped discover that, which I think is pretty cool. I didn't realize that until I started doing my research.
And I have to mention that we've got, if you're interested in Sperry Chalet, more about it, staying there and what it takes to get there, and some of the hikes that you can explore from around that area. We've got another episode called Sperry Chalet. Check it out, and you'll learn even more about the surrounding area.
So George Snyder, he had a bit of a history in gambling and, going out there and taking risks and stuff. So it's a tad bit of a mystery, but there's speculation in this. There's a few stories on how it happened, but he lost the Glacier house in 1906.
Lost it like in a card game or
something?
Well,
legend says he lost it in a poker game. I don't know. Maybe someone else knows something better, but my research found this. So by spring of 1906, it belonged to Olive and John Lewis. And John Lewis was a businessman, and he purchased that whole complex area, which was about 285 acres. And he eventually did replace the Snyder Hotel with the current Lake McDonald Lodge in 1910, so 4 years later. And then he also added, the 14 cabins. And it took about 10 months for the lodge to be built, so not a long time.
They had to get people in visiting.
Yes, but it wasn't called Lake McDonald Lodge yet. It was called the Lewis Glacier Hotel.
Well, that's amazing how the ownership of this, both property and some of the lodging has passed through different hands, and the history of how it got to where it is today, and the people that were involved. A ton of stories there. Sarah, we're going to talk more about Lake McDonald Lodge, the formation, and we're taking a short break, but stick with us. We've got another segment right after this.
The best part of a long hike? The view at the top. The best part of Freedom Bank? Seeing our customers reach their goals. We bring you the tools to bank anywhere, the service you expect from a neighbor, and the determination to make things happen. Let's make your financial view as stunning as Glacier's peaks. Freedom Bank, we want to be your bank. Give us a call at 892-1776. Member FDIC.
Welcome back. We are the Hiking Fools today in this episode talking about Lake McDonald Lodge and the history of it, bringing it up to date, all of the interesting facts about, from the start of it to the ownership, the complex, everything that exists there. And Lake McDonald Lodge is one of the most accessible lodges in the park, just inside the west entrance, also the largest lake. And Sarah, we are on the property. We've come to the point of, it's ready. It's ready for Lake McDonald Lodge to be built. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to touch on this a little bit too. So John and Olive Lewis, they kind of built this in the winter. It opened in the spring, but Lake McDonald froze over. So I found pictures, which is really cool, of a horse and carriage pulling huge logs, trees across the ice to this area to build this.
They had it so easy.
And then when the ice melted, they used the boat to get stuff here. But so John Lewis had this hotel built during the same time the Great Northern Railroad was building all the other Swiss-style lodges. So he also wanted it to be a Swiss style too. So he hired an architectural firm out of Washington. It's the Kirtland Cutter and Milgram. And they designed it, and it ended up being, if you visit, you can see it's a 3-story Swiss-style chalet, and it's kind of got that hunting lodge flair to it.
Yeah, the Swiss chalet style. It's got steep roofs, wide eaves, lots of wood, because they promoted it as what, like the Alps of America or something?
Yeah, that's kind of how the Great Northern Railroad promoted it. The Swiss Alps of North America, was a lot of their posters that they coined. So he wanted to mimic that as well. And it was at that time the only major park lodge not built by the Great Northern Railroad. So kind of interesting.
National Park Service rustic style is what I read somewhere. That's what they called it. And so it does have that feel.
Yeah, so the Belton Chalet was built in 1910. Then you got the Glacier Park Lodge, over in East Glacier. Then you got Sperry and Granite Park Chalet, 1913 to 1915. Many Glacier Hotel was 1915. And then, you have Lake McDonald Lodge here.
I see like a gold rush almost. People coming here with like this amazing place and the resources and gosh, exploiting it. I don't think so, but definitely, potentially overusing it and hopefully, over time, we've stewarded it in a way that allows it to be preserved. But at the time, I just imagine all of these people coming out by boat, by horse and buggy, building hotels and maybe not even knowing the extent of what we had here.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not too fond of development, but I would say the majority of the Glacier National Park wilderness is untouched, and it's essentially how it was, thousands of years ago, which is great. We do have some developed areas. I think it's really cool to think about what it may have been like, these passengers upon the train and coming west from the east and seeing, the backbone of North America, so to speak. Just the mountains just rise to the sky out of nowhere on the Rocky Mountain front. And I think that would have been really, really cool to see.
Absolutely. The train went right through that area and still does, right? I mean, it still runs along the Flathead, Middle Fork of the Flathead River from one side of Glacier to the other and through.
Yeah. So the original Lake McDonald Lodge was built, like I said, from timbers that were from site. So that was really cool. And we can touch on renovation and how that has changed over the years. But he wanted to create this grand style lobby with, the unpeeled cedar logs that support the balcony, and with this large, beautiful stone fireplace that is still there today. And it's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, I was jealous. We worked in the gift shop, and our good friend Will and some others, they tended the fire, and it just seemed like they were so much cooler than us. I mean, we were wearing a polo shirt and selling trinkets, Huckleberry items, and he was like stoking the fire and all the kids and the visitors, like, can you put another log? And these logs were what, 4, 5, 6 feet long?
Yeah.
Just monster logs, and the fireplace accommodates that. But it was so cool to have that right in the lobby.
Yeah, I just remember the smell of the cedar logs burning and the crackling of the fire. And it was most of the time kept going all summer long, even because it got pretty cool at night, and just the ambiance of that was pretty fabulous. So we've got this amazing lodge that has all sorts of taxidermy in there. So some of it was donated, some of it was killed by John Lewis. You know, you've got animal heads all over the place. There was a story I found somewhere that the night of the grizzlies that happened in the late 60s, one of the bears that was killed over at Trout Lake.
What?
Was hung in there. I don't know if this is factual or not. But
now I'm going to be freaked out every time I'm in the lobby again.
Well, we've been in that lodge so many times, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure there is a grizzly bear head mounted in there, but there's so much to look at when you go in there. Every time we're in there, we've been in there millions of times. I walk in awe. But I'm going to have to really pay attention to that. And
for sure, the mountain goats, obviously Great Northern Railroad, kind of a symbol of the park. I know there are some goats up there for sure.
So in 1921, the road, the lower portion on the west side of the Going to the Sun Road, was built from the west entrance up to the hotel. So that really helped with, not taking the steamboat. And so people would arrive how they do today, from the back entrance. And in 1930, the Great Northern Railroad purchased this hotel, actually, and then they named it the McDonald Hotel. So a lot of the stuff displayed in the lodge are originals. There were a few things, like the piano. The piano's been there since the beginning, which is kind of cool. And I think that's really neat. When we worked there, we'd have people would come in, like guests who knew how to play, would just open that up and play a beautiful tune. Yeah.
Available. Make sure you know how to play, otherwise just noise. But
they do say that on a sign. Don't play with it.
People come in and play, and it just creates that atmosphere is terrific.
Oh, it's beautiful. So I want to touch on a little bit. So there's a famous artist that came through during this time in the early 1900s.
If you're from Montana, if you live in this area, you can't, his name is so recognizable. You can't not know this guy.
Tell us, Josh, who is it?
Charles M. Russell, right? Charlie Russell is known as.
Yeah, Charles Marion Russell. And he spent a lot of time in the Lake McDonald area, and a lot of his paintings were hung in the lodge right off in the beginning. There might be a few in there. I'm not for sure. And next time we're in there, I'm going to have to check that out. But he was a cowboy artist, and he was a frequent guest here. He's got, a home on the lake. The dining room is named after him, which is pretty cool.
Yes, Charlie Russell's fireside dining room next to Lucky's Lounge. I'll tell you what we love it every year. So Sarah and I, have been married for almost 20 years, and every year that we've lived in Montana, we have gone to the dining room in Lake McDonald Lodge, special place for us, and had dinner on our anniversary. And our friend Dana, he's been working there so many years. He serves us every year in the dining room, and he knows we're coming. It's late September. We're in the dining room, Charlie Russell's dining room, and just have a terrific dinner and look out on the lake. And it's just such a memorable place.
Yeah, and actually the dining room there, so the original fireplace that's down in the dining room, Charlie Russell actually carved some artwork in it, but then there was a flood in the 60s and kind of washed that out, and so they had to replace that fireplace, so it's kind of sad not to have the original in there. But he holds a really big history, like I said. So he was born in 1864, and he was 16 when he headed west to seek, fortune or whatever it may be in Montana. And he came from a wealthy family in St. Louis, and he wanted to come out here and see what he could figure out. So Charlie Russell, like I said, was a famous painter, and you can find a lot of his artwork all over the Flathead Valley and some
throughout
surrounding
the state of Montana.
Yeah, and several lodges actually in the park.
Cool.
There's a large painting that was put in Lake McDonald Lodge in 2013, and it's a 4-foot by 8-foot large mural. And it was painted there at the hotel in 1962 by Ace Powell, and then it was later on donated. So it's up on the second floor there, and you won't miss it. It's beautiful. It wasn't by Charlie Russell, but another painter. So
the hotel has such a rich history, a lot of artwork,
yes,
Native American influence and everything. But we're going to talk more about, make sure you tune into part 2 to hear more about Lake McDonald Lodge and coming forward to today. And also check out our Instagram page at Hiking Fools MT to see some great photos. And tune in next time. Check out more episodes online. And remember to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, encouraging you to always go